Let's talk about the Kohen Gadol. We talked about precedents. We were in the fourth parak. I'll put it on the screen. We're in the fourth parak, and we saw what's the 19th halacha, at least according to the Korean edition. I prefer because that's where my notes are. Nope. Okay, we saw this halacha over here about precedents, and we said that Kohanic precedents. It seems that the way Maimonides brought this here is who it's regard to who gets to serve in the temple first, and who gets the respect, who has to listen to who. Like I said, it's the subordinates. However, in the source passage in the Talmud, it seems to be when it talks about who comes before who, it means if we unfortunately need to save someone's life by expending public funds, tzedakah funds, and let's say ransoming people from the Nazis, like let's say Rabbi Kestenbaum had to do, and then he was always the one who had to ransom, and also Jews kidnapped by Ishmaelite terrorists back in the 60s and 70s. So it was a real deal. Who do you save? And there's priorities, unfortunately. Okay, let's see this halacha. Kishiyamut hamelech o kohen gadol o echad mishar memunim. By the way, the Rambam brings a similar formulation here in Hilchot Melachim. Ma'amidin tachtau b'no o haroi liorsho. We set up in his place his son or someone who is fit to inherit him. That is a close relative who's supposed to inherit him. Sometimes, by the way, we have in Jewish history that a brother stepped in. There's Jewish kings who were inherited by their brothers, and there's high priests, especially in Second Temple times, who were inherited by their brothers, or disputes between two brothers. Classic story about Kimchis, who was she was a woman, and they say she merited that all her sons served in the high priesthood. Now, in First Temple times, that'd be kind of bad. It means that she buried a few sons, one after another. But in this case, it just so happens that some were fill-ins, etc., and she managed this. That's how it worked out. So sometimes you do have someone pass away, and it's the brother who steps in, or sometimes it's he can't serve, so it's the brother who fills in. And the chola kodem ben achala kodem lisrarut hamet. Whoever is the one who takes precedence with regards to the inheritance, nachala and Yerushar, similar words. They're sometimes used as synonyms. So he takes precedence in taking over this position. What is a srara? There, the Rambam says even the guy who's sar hamayim, the fellow's in charge of the what do you call it? He says the water channel. They built a canal. He's the one who's making sure that the water flows through it, and who has the right to use the water, take the water, etc. So that guy is called the sar of something. A sar usually in the Torah is a high position. In different contexts, we would translate it differently. Something prince, but not necessarily, because sometimes prince means the son of a king or someone with just high status. Whatever it may be, it's some sort of office, and the sar is the person who holds that office. It's kind of nice. It's almost romantic that in modern Hebrew, sar is given to a minister, and it's called a minister of the government. That's this title. Okay, it's kind of fitting because usually the people who used to help the kings back in the day usually were called sar, something or other. So that makes sense. So he's the one who inherits this position. See, there's no democratic system in place to elect, let's say, someone that people want. He gets it. It's an appointment. Of course, perhaps the original position, who gets to choose it, usually the Sanhedrin or someone else in charge does these appointments. He at least has to be a sufficient fill-in terms of his wisdom, chachma, to do what he needs to do. O biyira, or at least fear of God. Yira means fear of God here, even if he's not, let's say, competent enough. Why? Because we assume that if he has the Yiras Shamayim and he's in this position, so the competence will come around. Maybe he'll have an assistant who can actually help him. For example, we have cases in the Torah where they fulfilled the halacha that the son is the one who inherits the kingdom, even if he's a child. He's too young. We've had cases of 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and 8-year-olds inheriting the Davidic throne. So what happens? They actually had someone else in charge, and they teach him how to grow into his role. And they even had this recently. Rebbes, Hasidic Rebbes have gotten this. The Stolner Rebbe, the current Stolner Rebbe, has been Rebbe for like 60 years. He was put in the position already as a 5-year-old. He inherited the position from his grandfather. You know this? He's got a Hasidus. That's where the accident happened 2 years ago on Shavuos, with the collapse of the grandstand. So that was his new shul. So it's one of the larger Hasiduses. Also, I'm descended on from them, on my paternal side. So it's a Hasidus that's quite interesting. So the Rebbe's basically grown into this job. He does his job very well. He's also American, but he became the Rebbe at a young age because they followed this halacha that these swarot are held onto. And the Rambam says in Hilchot Melachim that these positions are held onto, and mishamrim lo ha-melucha, he says. They hold on to the melucha for him, so when he comes of age, he could have it. And this rule that it's hereditary is an explicit verse in the Torah. It says, Hu uvanal b'kerev Yisrael. It says about the king, L'ma'an yarich yamimam mamlachto, so that he shall have long days on his kingdom. Hu uvanal b'kerev Yisrael, him and his children among Israel. It means that his children, it seems to be saying that it's supposed to be his position and stay among his children. Now, the interesting thing about this is the Rambam says there that, yes, for the Davidians, it's supposed to stay permanently. For other groups, other dynasties, it's supposed to continue, but eventually, for whatever reason, it's going to stop. And that'll be the end of the dynasty, and that's it. We're not looking forward to, let's say, the what's that word? The restoration of the Jehu dynasty, for example. Even though their descendants, they were not wiped out. Normally, that was the thing in the times of the 10 tribes. From Yeravam on, once it came time to switch a dynasty, so the new usurper would wipe out the family of the previous owners. But if they didn't do that to Yehu, it says that his scion was assassinated and someone else ruled in his place. And there's actually testimonies from Second Temple times that these families persisted among the Jews. But no one was saying, okay, we should reappoint them, bring them back into their position. And also in the times of the judges, they didn't do such a thing. Apparently, like I said a few weeks ago, Gidon was offered this, and he refused. He says it's not right necessarily yet. Perhaps it's I could take this. It's my right, but it is not right. Okay. Milamed Shah Malchut Yerusha. This pasuk says that at least the kingdom, the right to be king, is hereditary. So too, it's any inherited position, any office in Israel. Whoever's earned this position has earned it. Apparently, it becomes hereditary. So if you had a guy who was Sar Hamayim or Sar Ha'otzar, whatever it is, they should appoint his son. As long as, by the way, it's on condition that the son or someone could qualify, as the Euro. Of course, if it doesn't, if they don't find an heir, so they start again from the beginning. Okay, there the Rambam points out that also in Hilchos Melachim, that is, here we're talking about Kohanim. Kohanim have to be from a very specific part of the children of Israel, right? Aaronites. Melucha, not necessarily. You could have Rambam, for example, entertains that you could have kings from all different tribes, and it so happens that we know that Yeravam was from Ephraim. Shaul was from Binyamin. David was, of course, from Yehuda. Baasha was Beit Yisachar. Okay? It is Rashi assumes that Achav and Omri were also from Ephraim, and that Yehu was from Menashe. We don't know the source for Rashi's saying. Okay? I've never found that. People point this one out. How did Rashi know that? Okay. So it could be. Or maybe Achav and Omri were from Menashe also. There's hints that Yehu was from Menashe. Either way, we have these other tribes. And the Rambam there brings Chazal, who says that you're not supposed to appoint non-Jews, or at least someone who's not from Jewish descent. Imo mi Yisrael. So you're not supposed to have Gentiles enter this. There are those who wanted to claim that when someone converts, don't forget the Klei. When someone converts to Judaism, he's 100% Jewish. But the rabbinate, calling someone Rav, is a form of Srara. When they had that whole controversy about if to ordain women, which is, by the way, a whole shir in and of itself, to what extent can women have halachic authority? Yeah. I don't know. I think that certainly we believe that women can be prophets. Right? And the prophet can override everybody. If the Sanhedrin says X, Y, and Z, and the prophet goes and says, Kol Amar Hashem, do this Avera. So you heed the prophet, whether it's a prophet or a prophetess. We make no distinction. So you can entertain this. Whatever. It's not, maybe we'll have a shir about this, but for now it's not. The point is, one of the arguments made was one of the arguments made by Rabbanim who taught at YU, in all places there, they have their own tsaris now with the modern movements. So one of the arguments made was that the rabbinate is a srara, their smicha is a form of srara, and therefore, just like you're not supposed to appoint women to the kingdom, like it says there, you cannot appoint women to the rabbinate. They cannot get smicha. Interesting argument. And then they asked them, wait a minute, but the same halacha says that you're not supposed to give converts to Judaism a srara. And you're calling this rabbinic ordination a srara. So does that mean that you're not supposed to be ordaining converts? But we do have examples of them ordaining converts, or at least people descended from two converts. If a man is born Jewish, his mother's a convert, his father's a convert, he's still considered convert stock until his mother is born Jewish. So we have a real problem there. So I don't know what YU's official position is this. I don't know what other seminaries take. I don't know if the rabbinate checks this necessarily, but I think the rabbinate does. They look into it. They're already passing people's gerus, right? The rabbinate has its high standards. They look really closely at this, so they might
retroactively declare it's pasul.
Yeah.
Which, in my humble opinion, is totally outrageous.
Okay.
I fear that may happen to me.
Okay, so God willing, we'll stay safe. So this was a good question. Are they allowed to ordain converts? And the jury's still out about that one. You should just know, Chazal said about that we have examples of converts to Judaism also who became prophets. Chazal say that Ovadia, who's mentioned, Chazal make the connection. The Ovadia, the prophet, who has his own small book, also is the Ovadia who apparently was assisting King Ahab in charge of his kitchen and his household. And he was a convert to Judaism. Okay, be that as it may. We see that certainly being a Navi is not a Srara according to this then, because women converts become Nevi'im. And you could just look at the experience of prophets like Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, and yes, it probably is not, a privilege. It's not a position that should be hereditary. You can't make prophecy hereditary, and it's certainly not a Srara. Reminds me of a joke. The rabbi was asked if doing certain work is certain activities are melacha on Shabbos. What's considered work. So his standard was if the wife makes the maid do it, it's work. Okay, whatever his wife don't want to do, that's work. So the question of standards. Okay.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.